Charles Dana, a well-known 19th century journalist, writes that the Sun, with the paper for whom he was working at that time, will endeavor to present its daily photograph of the world's doings in the most luminous and lively manner. That's what the newspaper gives you, a photograph, uninterpreted, without color or bias, as people often said in the 19th century. The London Times, writing in 1848, says that the New York Herald is the daily daguerreotype of the heart and soul of the model republic. Again, this idea of the newspaper as a photographic representation, the ideal prose as being a prose that, as best as possible, imitates the photograph in its objectivity and in the absence of any point of view. It becomes, because of this idea that it can represent the world as it is, a powerful tool for, well, let's say propaganda, something we'll talk about next time as well. The first war can be photographed, the Crimean War in the 1850s, known to us mostly because of the charge of the Light Brigade. I always have Paul read a little bit. Did you have to memorize that? Yeah. The famous charge of the Light Brigade, in which the Light Brigade charged the Russian guns at Balaclava, and many of them were killed because of an idiotic order and so on. During that war, in which the British and French were fighting against the Russians and the Turks in Turkey, or in the Crimea, really, there were wide charges that the military was incompetent. Stories about shipments of boots were only left boots were not right-hand boots were shipped. The soldiers were starving, diseased, ill-equipped, cold, didn't have ammunition, and so on. All of this news began to leak back to London in an age where news could now travel very rapidly because of why? Because you had the telegraph. This is the first war, also I think it's probably the first war that's covered remotely via the telegraph. At the urging of Prince Albert, the royal consort to Queen Victoria, the photographer Roger Fenton, a wonderful nature photographer, who's unfortunately not known for his nature photographs, but for this, is sent to Crimea to take photos to counter the reports that William Russell, one of the first kind of war journalists, sensational journalists of the 19th century, has been sending back about the unhappiness of the troops. And Fenton said, well, go report what's going on and show that the troops are really not that unhappy. And you get Fenton here's Fenton with his apparatus, his wagon, because in those days it wasn't just a question of point and click by any means. You had to prepare the plate in the wagon in complete darkness, go out and expose the plate, and at an exposure that even at that time wasn't up to taking pictures of battles and quick motion, come back and fix the plate and so on and so forth in this mobile darkroom. So he took pictures mostly of soldiers in the camps and showing them fat and happy, drinking and standing around and looking fine and so on. They were shipped back to London. An exposition was held in order to reassure people that your boys are just fine. Look how happy they are and so on. I don't know what the outcome was, if people were persuaded or not, but it was one of the first uses, certainly, of photography for propaganda purposes. By the time of the Civil War, which was, after all, a war that was fought in the United States, not far from the city, so it was much easier to get to than the Crimea was. The technology had advanced that much further. Matthew Brady is the best known Civil War photographer. He had a team of people working for him, and he took these famous, again, using an apparatus, something like Fenton's with a wagon and so on. Took numerous images of the war. Now, again, he couldn't take battle photographs. The exposures at times were too slow, but he could take pictures of wounded soldiers and batteries. And this is his. That's not on the lower left. That's not Brady, but it's another photographer who's got his wagon and is taking pictures. And the soldiers in the camps and so on, which again could be shown in the newspapers as they were. They might be the basis for engravings that were then put in the newspapers. But they were again shown in galleries in New York and Washington so that people could see what was going on. And for the first time, see war as it was, at least not in the battle, but see soldiers as they were, more or less at the time they were fighting, actually see what was going on, with this sense of looking at reality, not realities interpreted by a war artist. People were enormously struck by this. A contemporary said, Mr. Brady has brought home to us the terrible reality and earnestness of war. And the possibility of seeing a picture of those bodies strewn on the field, not again by a painter, but as they really were, would, people thought, give others such a sense of the terribleness of war that war would no longer be possible. Something people continue to say about war photography right up to right now. This picture of the soldier you saw was involved in Homer. We'll come to in a minute. But that was Seichen. Seichen was a American photographer of the early 20th century, first a pictorialist, later a decadist photographer, and again believed that photography would make war obsolete once we could see war as it actually was. By the 1870s, you actually are in a position to take picture of the exposure times have come down to the point where you can actually take pictures of battles. This is the earliest known battle photo from the Battle of the Sedan in 1870 during the Franco-Prussian War. But what usually happened, even if these photographs were made, is that they were rendered then by newspaper artists who saw these engravings in periodicals like Leslie's Illustrated Weekly. These are mostly popular periodicals that had engravings of recent events. These were sort of the newsreels of the day. Let's see. Come on. What's going on? Ah! Don't look. You'll ruin it for you. Now this is the other way. Don't tell the ending. Something's weird here. Photographic battle. I'm pushing. Somehow it won't go past this picture. Now it's something going on. Wait, I see. I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Let me see. Let me see if this works. You know what? You're right. Okay, let's try slideshow again. Now this for some reason doesn't like this photo. I mean, it's taking a while for this. Okay. the belief in the power of the photograph to represent nature as it is not one that goes unnoticed by people who then think, oh, well, we can manipulate the photograph and give people a sense of a reality that never took place in a way that no illustration could do. You can make a picture of something that never happened, and people, oh, you can make a picture of anything. But a photograph has, as both Newhall and Sontag suggested, a claim to be real that other forms of representation don't. And so you begin to see people manipulating photographs, either for photographic effect. Now, you read about the Newhall, the sharpshooter. Newhall, that wasn't reading, was it? The Newhall sharpshooter wasn't the reading, wasn't it? Yeah. You read about Newhall sharpshooter, and it's moving the body to get a better effect. It turned out that wasn't even the sharpshooter's rifle; it had been moved from somebody else, and so on. Yeah, the rifle had been moved, the head had been moved. He was placed from one place to another. Fenton himself. This is something that was discovered quite recently. Fenton himself obviously intervened in the photographs. One of these is a picture of the famous Valley of the Shadow of Death, where the charge of the Light Brigade took place just after the action with all the cannonballs. One of them is a photograph of the same place in which the cannonballs have been moved. And nobody's sure quite which one is which. That is, the cannonballs were either put on the road or taken off the road. But both photographs are there. It didn't happen. The storm or wind didn't come up and blow the photograph, but blow the cannonballs off the road. So Fenton himself manipulated that photograph for artistic reasons, presumably. And it's not as if they tell different stories about what had happened. In other cases, the techniques were used more invidiously. During the Paris Commune of 1871, after the Battle of Sedan, the French had been defeated by the Prussians. They signed a very unfavorable truce with the Prussians. The people of Paris, for complicated reasons, revolted, declared, this was May of 1871, March of 1871, declared the Commune. This was really the first modern left revolution, socialist revolution. For several months, they took control of Paris. The Germans were right outside the city, and later the French. They took control of Paris, established communes, something like a socialist order, and so on, before they were, the French troops ultimately came and retook the city and massacred anywhere from 10 to 30,000 Parisians who had been taking part in this. Many fled, and so on. It was a signal moment in the revolutionary history of the modern age. To justify their repression of the Commune, the government took certain photographs that had been made by the Communale, the French, the Parisian revolutionaries, and doctored them so that, for example, the faces on these figures who were being shot were changed to be other characters, and similarly with the firing squad on the right. So they charged the Communards with killing people. Actually, the French had killed. The French government had killed, but they said, they killed. Look, here's the photographic evidence of that. To demonstrate how photographs could be used to manipulate the reality, one English photographer famously made a photograph of William Gladstone, the British Prime Minister, leaving a pub outside in the Seven Dials district. Is that right? When I first saw this, I thought it was because Gladstone was a teetotaler, but Paul told me no, it wasn't a teetotaler. It's just that the Seven Dials neighborhood is the neighborhood where all the houses of prostitution were, and so that if he was there, he must have been involved in something he should have been doing. But this was made in order to demonstrate how easily photographs could misrepresent the truth. Nonetheless, the technique is periodic, is systematically used. It's used by totalitarian regimes. There's a picture of Stalin on the right with a figure who in the 1936 purges is eliminated, and is eliminated also from the photographic representations. Another figure, Bogu, in 1936, is eliminated from pictures with Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong is on the right of that photograph. And Carlos Franchi, a Cuban poet, who was in favor of the revolution but then spoke against Castro, and I think was sent to prison, and was eliminated from photographs in which he appeared with Castro, wrote a poem called I Discovered My Photographic Death. Do I exist? I'm a little black, I'm a little white, I'm a little shit on Fidel's vest. Just eliminated from that picture. More recently, in this country as well, pictures are doctored during the 2004 election to show a young John Kerry and Jane Fonda speaking at the same rally. In fact, Kerry was speaking himself. The picture Fonda was taken at another rally. It wasn't hard to do. Or just simply for purposes of sensation. Brad and Angelina caught together on vacation. Well, actually, those were different islands, different beaches, whatever. But it's easy enough for the national star to put them in the same place. Here's an example I'm particularly fond of. This is the Wisconsin alumni magazine, the undergraduate magazine, whatever. And you see that the black face of the black student on the left, not present in the photograph, but we need a black. We're shooting this in Ectochrome, so we need a black face there. So let's put in. And one I'm particularly fond of, the Republicans in 2004 as well. Show a soldier standing in front of a sign that says, "Our soldiers are watching," and they're. Can anyone read that? I can't read it. But it's a soldier standing and watching that in an ad for the Republican Party. Well, that photograph was also doctored. Here was the original. And famously, I'm just giving a bunch of examples here. Famously, the Time magazine's picture of O.J. Simpson after he's accused of his wife's death. Both these pictures, particularly the one in Time, are darkened. The face is enormously darkened. As is the smoke in a picture of the results of an Israeli raid on Beirut by a Reuters photographer who was fired when that was discovered. Or sometimes it's really a question of making aesthetic decisions. That famous TV guide picture of Oprah, little needs to be said. Or more importantly, the famous photograph taken after Kent State in 1970. Everybody knows about Kent State, 4 students killed during the. There's a pole behind her head, just some kind of fence post or whatever, and so on and so forth. And so he took it out just because it makes for a much more effective photograph. But he did doctor the photo, right? And there's an interesting ethical aesthetic question there. It's a much more powerful, but it would have been such a powerful photo if he hadn't taken it out. Maybe not. It makes his political point much more strongly, but he took the pole out. These were the issues that we wanted you to consider during the assignment. Newhall and Sontag seem to make both of them this point about how compellingly real the photographic image seems. If we had been there, this is how it would look to us. We know that this is an illusion, and yet we can't shake our faith that this is how it really happened. Sontag says the same thing. It passes for incontrovertible proof that a given thing happened. It may distort, but there's always a presumption that something exists or didn't exist. So, in the age of Photoshop, does this still hold? Elizabeth not here? Okay, move on. Adam. Yes. You can read, or you can just read from your heart. You got this a little bit. So you're saying that even if it isn't, if they were doctored, and even if it isn't doctored, a photograph shows a reality, but there's, and I'll come to another example of this to show, but there's lots going on around that, and the narrative that the photograph seems to imply isn't necessarily what really happened. There's a point of view in that. So you think that the real source of this mistrust is a wider culture, you say, of propaganda and public relations and.
So this is the result of the previous one is the photograph necessarily was so saturated in images that are fake, that change the focus, so there's no reason to necessarily.
Eamon? Yeah, Eamon.
I think just overall, I made the argument that while there are many needs of Photoshop and developing features today, they're not like launched off in society, but we don't features and other those alterations become apparent along the time. And I think I also said that even before the age of Photoshop, like there's still ways to set up edit a picture or change the like thing about like editing it afterwards and things that will say to like rival politicians like shaking hands both doing it, putting off this like image of like friendship and like evaluating each other. So like even before Photoshop, an image might launch always did.
So, and that's a very good point. I mean, there are photo ops and staged photos that may not have been actually physically manipulated, but when, for example, Putin is shown, he's shown in all these bizarre, hyper macho situations, and they get weirder and weirder and more extreme and more extreme. He's not, he's jumping out of a plane with a submachine gun, and he's shown scuba diving in the Black Sea, I think, and he comes up with two rare vases from the 3rd century BC that he's just discovered. They're all clean and so on and so forth. Well, I mean, the vases were put down there and so on and so forth. And his press agent admitted it. He said, well, it was a photo op. But this can be done in that way too. Nonetheless, the fact that people do this suggests that it has some effect, even if people are aware of the possibility that they're and that's why we'll come to that in a moment. Amy is also not here. But she made a good point. For the most part, she said a little retouching is common and understandable. Most of this in this day and age are guilty of using Photoshop on a photograph before uploading it to certain social media websites. Now, I will not ask how many of you have done that, because first of all, how many of you are close to somebody who has done that, has used Photoshop to, oh, come on. Yeah, okay, all right. My daughter does it. So people are used to manipulating images. The interesting question is whether, when, for example, one of the examples I gave was the golfer, wasn't it? I had a bunch of URLs, I can't remember which was the golfer. No, there's a picture of a golfer having won a tournament, holding his club with a big smile, and in the original picture, his caddy's standing behind him, sort of like the Kent State photo, and in the version that's submitted to the press, the caddy's gone, just so he's more silhouetted against the background of the trees and so on. The photographer's fired for making that adjustment. How do you feel about that? Michael?
Well, I think it's really hard, especially with photojournalism, and photography is hard enough. Photography journalism, I think the answer is editing is generally seen to assume that you edit as far as to present the truth as accurately as possible, because the camera sees you have to get the picture through this light. So it's kind of like with those seemingly inconsequential edits, you kind of have to think of places to draw the line, and you can say, sure, his caddy being, amazing photo doesn't really change things that much, or make the full cover heads and change things that much. But at the same time, if you allow that, then what is next? What doesn't become allowed? And so if you take a very hard line, it makes it very easy to say, these small edits, making things presentable on paper makes sense, but not removing things, because what is inconsequential to the long run is.
So you feel it's a slippery slope if you allow that. Who knows where you're going? Your name is Remind? Lisa, right? Sorry. Right. So you think certain things, if you hit sharpen, give me a break, you're just sharpening to make it more visible. So it's permissible in those cases. Is that the idea? So you think just you click and that's it. You would have been very happy that in the 1920s, the Neue Sachlichkeit, the objectivist photographers believed that you click and then you fold your arms, you do nothing to the image. It's in reaction to the pictorialism of photographers who manipulated the plate to make it more like art. Yeah. And your name is Sophia. Right? Sophia. So there's no, the idea that there's a reality that you could actually capture by clicking is yeah. Right. Right. Smile. No, you're not happy.